Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. I'm CP and in this video I'm reviewing the Cain Connecticut CT. As per usual, this review will be conducted using the Bespoke Unit Cigar Formula, a quantifiable review matrix that you can use at home. Just look in the description and you'll see a link which will take you to a guide which will teach you how to use it as well as provide you with printable blank versions. Just make sure you've got enough ink in your printer, unlike me at the moment. As for the storage of these cigars, this didn't take place in the acrylic Boveda humidor that you can see behind me. Instead, I used a Boveda bag, which is very similar. It's airtight with a double laminated seal. I used two 69% Boveda bags, and I put in a Boveda butler to monitor it regularly. This took place over 3 weeks to ensure that the cigars were properly acclimated and prepared for the review. At BespokeUnit.com, we've actually reviewed the whole line of Cain Cigars. This was a project launched by Oliva's creative department, Studio Tobac, who are the same people responsible for Nub Cigars. Cain, the whole concept of it was to make these big brash cigars that consist only of Ligero leaf, which means that they are going to be much stronger and have fuller body than other cigars. This started with the original Cain F. There was also a Cain Habano, a Cain Maduro, as well as the Cain Daytona. If you look in the description below, you'll see links to all of those reviews so you can read them and learn what's so special about them. The Cain Connecticut CT came out in late 2018 and not to much fanfare. In fact, we didn't hear much about it until at some point last year. And therefore, when we managed to get our hands on a box, we thought that we'd cover it in detail. The difference between this Cain Connecticut compared to the originals is that it's only available in either a 5x50 Robusto or a 6x50 Toro, whereas the originals came in a nub format, that's the Cain F and Cain Maduro, but you also got them in these big gordos, which are 6x60s. Therefore, it seems to be a bit of a turn in a different direction. The cigars are produced at Oliva's factory, the Tabacalera Oliva de Nicaragua S.A. The method is a classic accordion style, it seems, which is heteromeno, made by hand. The wrapper is an Ecuadorian Connecticut, whereas the binder and filler are Nicaraguan Ligeros, but it doesn't tell you, or I couldn't find, what varieties were used for this blend. So we'll jump straight into the look and feel, and I have an unsmoked Cain Connecticut right here. So the first thing you'll notice is that it has a very slender and smooth wrapper, which has a pale espresso crema hue. It has a couple of sheens of oil as well. It's very nicely presented. There is the band at the foot, which I'll talk about later. The veins are quite refined. The roll is overall straight, but you might get a couple of soft spots, and it's also quite soft to the touch. I didn't find that the spring was overly firm on this cigar. Nevertheless, going into the Prelight, this didn't affect the draw. In fact, the draw is perfect on the Prelight, and it delivers a full bouquet of aromas. Going back to the look and feel, which I forgot to mention the aromas. On the foot, there was butterscotch, cinnamon, and hay. It's very alluring indeed. And when taking the Prelight, this instead is salted caramel, cinnamon again, and benzoin. Benzoin being an incense resin, it has an earthy and vanilla characteristic, and it is very, very sweet on the palate on the Prelight. Moving on to the overall palate and flavour profile of this cigar. So the first third, it does deliver a nice rich tableau of flavours. It delivers first butterscotch, as was experienced in the smell of the foot of the cigar, as well as sautéed lemon. Indeed, this cigar is very zesty, quite sweet and caramelized, and there's an intriguing, slightly acetone solvency in the flavour of the cigar, especially in the retrohale in the first third. I thought that to be quite curious. It wasn't quite reminiscent of nail polish per se, but it was more fruitiness and slight booziness as well. Going into the second third, well, this booziness kind of returned, and I had a sensation where the acetone and the butterscotch combined to create a brandy butter booziness. So you still have the creaminess with an additional alcoholic touch to it. This was accompanied by birchwood, which is a fragrant woody character, as well as char grilled thyme, which was especially the case on the retrohale. There was a slight aromatic presence, and I would even go as far as saying lemon thyme, given that this is quite a zesty cigar all the way down. Moving on to the final third, the woodiness more or less subsided and gave way to molasses, a nice syrupy, sugary profile. There was also a hint of hickory, especially in its drinkable form, this woody, aromatic, slightly spicy note, as well as white pepper on the retrohale. To say that this is a straight Ligero cigar, it wasn't at all overwhelming. It did build in body, but it never got past the medium point. Indeed, it stays relatively consistent all the way down. Indeed, this isn't the most complex cigar out there. It's not as complex as, for example, the Cain Daytona, especially after it's been aged for a while, or the Cain Habano, whereas the Cain F and the Cain Maduro aren't overly complex at all. In terms of mouthfeel, though, it was velvety, it was smooth, it was very pleasant on the palate. Its astringents and stimulation are both very, very balanced. Indeed, it didn't provide too much salivation, nor did it dry the palate, and the stimulation seemed to be round the center of the tongue, but it didn't focus in too much. As for the life cycle of this cigar, it feels somewhat linear. While there are some discernible notes that change and evolve throughout the experience, they did seem to be more of the same. There were no great changes or unexpected evolutions that really added some interest through the smoking experience. And as for the finish, I find it to be quite brief on the cigar. It doesn't last very long, perhaps half an hour or so, and the flavours will more or less leave your palate. But the residual scent in the room is quite pleasant, it's quite fragrant. There is a slight hint of acetone, which isn't overly alluring, but it does have an overall pleasant character before it subsides entirely, and it does dissipate quite soon. As for the burn on the cigar, this gets 4 marks from me. The draw is consistent all the way through, despite being a little bit soft. It delivers just the right amount of resistance that you want. The temperature is nice and cool. The waviness, well, there is a touch of waviness here. This is very slight, and this hasn't been touched up whatsoever since it was lit. And the ash backbone, as is the case with a lot of nub or Cain cigars, is very strong, but perhaps not as strong as some of the previous installments in the lineup. Next, I'd like to talk about the overall experience of the cigar, and I'm going to talk about the band first. And that is the problem with all Cain cigars. They all have bands on the foot. Some people like this, some people don't. I personally am not a fan whatsoever of bands on the foot. I don't mind a secondary band on the foot, which can help protect the cigar, but I do like a little bit of ornamentation, or at least having the choice of having some ornamentation when I smoke the cigar. What I usually do is actually remove the band and try and slide it from the top, but this doesn't happen all the time successfully. Occasionally, in fact, it's too tight and you end up just potentially damaging the cigar. But in this case, I managed to do it for the sake of this video, as well as the written review, which is in the link below, by the way. The band as well, if you can, going back to say, let's take the Daytona here, it's very stylized and I think it's very attractive. There's a lot of detail, there are different fonts, it's quite appealing to the eye. Whereas I felt that the Cain Connecticut just felt a little bit cheaper. A lot less thought went into this. It just has Cain and CT, and if we compare this to the original Cain F, at least this had other text, different mentions of where, the types of leaves that were used. There was just much more going on. This felt like a bit of an afterthought. And the same can be said for the box. So if I take the Cain Maduro box here, as you can see, it's much larger because these are 6x60 cigars, where I have here the 6x50s of the Cain Connecticut's. But you can see there's a lot of detail on the box. Even though it is a basic sliding top dovetailed wooden box, you do have the details on the side being branded here, but you also have stickers and custom stickers as well for the seal of authenticity. Meanwhile, if you look at the Cain Connecticut box, it's much plainer. There isn't the same attention to detail. Yes, it does have the same printed side, but this is printed, it's not been branded on as is the case with the originals, and here you only have a standard seal of authenticity. Otherwise it's a very functional box. It does the job. The box itself is exactly the same as the others, just a different size, and it fulfills the same function. But it's just a shame that there isn't that consistency as with the other box, where you have the sticker that goes down the side, a specific color scheme, but with the same overall approach. As for the value of the cigar though, this is excellent. The RRP for a single is just $8. I've only seen it though available on one single online retailer, which was Holt's in this case. The RRP is $8, but there you can get them a little cheaper. If you buy a box of 20 of the 6x50s, these are actually on sale as I'm speaking right now. I think it's something like $70 for a box of 20, which comes at $3.50 a cigar, which is extraordinary. It's excellent. It's a very good price for what it is. Therefore, in that case, it offers superb value for money despite the band, despite the lack of complexity. As for the occasion of the cigar, well, normally the band, I wouldn't consider it to be an extremely versatile cigar. However, given that it's on the foot, you'll probably be taking it off immediately. Therefore, it would be a very versatile cigar. In fact, it's very beginner friendly. For a beginner that's been only smoking mild cigars, this would be a good step up, seeing as it is an overall Connecticut mild blend, but with Ligero leaf all the way through. It just gives them a level above of what they're perhaps used to. Therefore, it's great for taking to events like weddings, where lots of people can smoke them, especially at the price point like that. You can be dishing it out without it hurting your wallet too much, and all the guests can enjoy it. And even if they're not used to cigars, this will be something that they will most likely be able to enjoy. Finally, we'll be talking about Pairings. Pairings is at the bottom right hand corner of the cigar formula, and it is not scored. This is just a consideration that we like to put down to give you a couple of suggestions of how to pair this cigar. Well, first of all, in terms of food pairings, I would go for some perhaps pretzel nuts to accompany this. This would be something that would really help extend those mineral flavors in this cigar, and also some of the woody characteristics, especially that there is this salted caramel aspect, so it would be quite enjoyable. Alternatively, you could go for candied peanuts. This is a really nice little snack that I enjoy every now and then, especially with a cigar like this. It would pair nicely and again extend those caramel notes, but you'd also get a little bit of nuttiness, which could help create some interesting accords. As for beverages, I would first go for a limoncello. I'm a big fan of limoncello. I like making it myself, and in fact I've written a guide on bespokeuunit.com, which you can see in the description below, on how to make limoncello at home. It's very easy, but that would be a great pairing with the cigar, especially the zesty character of this cigar, which is a little bit unusual, and since limoncello is something that you wouldn't normally have a cigar with, this would be a great opportunity to do so. Otherwise, if you like your classic liquor, go for a Speyside single malt whiskey. Speyside, the advantage of this is going to be a little bit more floral and light-hearted, and it would go well with the characteristics and overall profile of the cigar. And finally, if you're a coffee drinker, I would suggest a cappuccino, especially the creaminess of that would pair well with the cigar overall. That's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment if you have any questions or comments about this cigar and if you've tried it yourself. And until next time, head to bespokeuunit.com, see all the other men's lifestyle subjects that we cover. I'm sure you'll find something that you'll enjoy. Until next time, take care.